I heard you all wanted another episode. Episode 47. Welcome. The Faith in the Fresh Vibe podcast, brought to you by me, Rohadi. I'm your host, and I'm on Treaty 7 territory in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. One of the ways you can support this podcast is the simple way: rate it, follow us. Then share it with one of your friends. I will venture with you as we figure out this journey through deconstructing and decolonizing Christianity. Episode 47 features my new friend Sharifa Stevens. You ever have one of those conversations with someone and you realize this is a kindred soul? That's how I felt in this conversation and spending some time with Sharifa. It wasn't just the Eeyore jokes, or how we collectively bathe in the waters of unrest, how we share the prophetic voice when it comes to naming and truth-telling all that ain't right in the world. It wasn't even our conversation that I didn't include about mangoes. Let's be real. A lot of the world's problems would be solved if we just had more mangoes. In this episode, we begin by tracking Sharifa's story growing up, her experience in a diverse church, her faith formation, which is a fascinating story. Then we meander our way through in the search for affirmations, but this time in all the right places. We speak to elevating the voices of those on the margins, particularly women of color, and we name pathways to resistance unto ultimate liberation. Liberative community is what we're after. And at the end, you get this treat, which I think is a book. And I hope, Sharifa, I hope you take it. I hope you do it. A book on dispersing power. Whew. Enough from me. Let's jump into this episode. Sharifa, welcome.
Thank you.
We were jamming off air for a good half hour.
Yes.
Just hanging out. And we realized, sometimes you can, and that's why I kind of love this, you wouldn't know, but in this season 7 of Faith in the Fresh Vibe, I've drawn in some friends, and then some of them are just like, oh gosh, like if we were together in the same city, I think we'd be friends. Yeah! I think we'd be like a tiered friend. There's tiers of friends. I don't know why I keep talking about this in every episode. Tiers of friends. And there's like the whatever friends. And then there's like those top tier friends where you get one another. And our conversation around grief and the prophetic call of what was the word you used, the metaphor you used around grief?
Was it bathing in angst and unrest?
Bathing
or was
in,
it yet
in
another?
The unrest. Yeah. And I was just like, wait a minute, that's me. We're not alone as we wash in this grief waters. And trauma. Yeah, these deep waters. But you also legitimize that by calling it, and it's true. Although I wonder if in some ways it's like the Christian answer to
it is the grief. Absolutely not. I feel like if anything, the Bible has shown us that the answer to prophetic words is violence. It's death. Mm-hmm. It is isolation. So I think
that's ooh.
I think what we were talking about was how the flip side of bathing in the waters of angst is having this constant vision for what is ideal, what is beautiful, what is good, and experiencing the disappointment of that not being reality. The flip side of that prophetic insight is heartbreak, really, because there are things that can be that are not.
Constant.
Yeah.
I have to sit with that because you're you're right. I don't want to accept it in that the prophetic imagination leads into more death and destruction for the prophet, and perhaps picturing for the people too, that even in your lifetime you will not see the fruits of your oh, I don't want that.
That's right. I mean, I don't either. That's why we need deep waters. We just sometimes drowning, sometimes treading, sometimes swimming, right?
And always it feels like it's against the current. Shucks. Well, that's a great start. I wonder if how many folks, because we also said this, how many folks are like, nodding their head. Like the prophetic folks are the ones who can feel, either experience or feel, empathize with the injustice around them. That, yeah, I get it. You get it. And then there are folks who are like, no idea what you're talking about. That sounds terrible, but
how could you live like that?
It sounds exhausting. You should be more joyful.
Yeah.
Maybe pray harder.
Oof.
All you need is prayer. I keep hearing that one. Sharifa, what lands are you currently situated on? We're going to do lands to offer some context, but also we're going to use the foundation of the prophetic call, or the treading of the waters of grief and unrest as our foundation moving forward here. But let us know, describe, tell us, where are you currently situated on?
Where I am is the land of the Wichita, the Kickapoo, the Jumanos, and the Tawakani. Those are the nations that should be here, populating, flourishing here. This is Dallas, Texas.
All the way to Dallas, we've been told that Alberta is the Texas of the North. Unless we do something really strange, then we're the Florida of the North.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, depends where and what time of year. But I've heard Calgary is very much like Houston, and apparently Houston is more diverse.
Yes. Yeah, I was about to say that's probably a compliment because of the diversity of immigrant populations in Houston. It's got flavor.
It's slowly changing here. We're still, a conservative province, predominantly white, but the cities are shifting. Now, you have been in Dallas for how long?
Don't make me say it again.
Okay, just a little bit of time.
Almost half my life.
Almost half your life. And you have attended seminary?
Yes, I graduated with a master's of theology from Dallas Theological Seminary, and the seminary is what brought me to these parts.
So originally from
New York. I'm from the Boogie-Down Bronx originally. Second generation American.
Second gen, but your folks are from
Jamaica.
Jamaica.
Yeah, man.
That's your parents are from Jamaica?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And my grandparents and my great grandparents.
And how many folks are still in the Bronx then?
So I still have aunts and cousins in the Bronx. And like good Jamaicans, we spread out. So we have some in Canada, in Ontario, and we have some in Florida, of course. And I have some extended family in England, of course.
As is tradition, yes.
Yes.
As is the Queen's extension,
Woo!
her colonizing arm.
Yes, I'm a colonized family because so my folks are from Jamaica. My husband's folks are from Canada and Australia.
Oh yeah, they're from Canada.
Yes, his dad was from Canada. Mm-hmm.
How about that? why did you go to Texas? You were chasing school, you said?
Yes. So I went to seminary because I had a very lovely young adult pastor who really fostered community and love for Jesus and a curiosity for the Bible that that grew me up in the faith in a way that was different for me because I think I grew up with the zealousness of following God, but also with a fear that made me want to keep a polite distance
From
and
God.
from God.
Oh.
Yeah, like let's not know each other too well
Uh-huh.
because
Yeah. You kill people. Yeah.
yes, I
Yeah.
just there are some things that I read that I was like, wait, so that dude, and I can't remember his name, but it's like this dude was trying to keep the Ark of the Covenant from falling, and so he touched it and then he died. Okay, let me
Yeah.
just keep polite distance.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
um I
A
yes,
lot of
so I
deaths like
felt,
that.
man, I
Unexplained. Like, oh, jeez.
what am I to glean from this? So, and I, the rote, or maybe you don't. But the rote explanation is the holiness of God,
Hmm.
right? But
Hmm.
that explanation was not. It did not settle me.
Yeah.
We're supposed to want Him and want Him close, but then, what if we reach out in the wrong way?
Yeah. This holiness seems to lead to death.
So that was the premise of my those were my young
Your
years, and that is
formative
why I
years. A
swim
lot
in
of
the
death.
dark water.
Boy, that really explains all the unrest, eh? When you
But early
pinpoint
age,
that, let me write that down for therapy later. Oh boy.
no, don't, because I have found my rest in Jesus. I've found it.
Amen.
So, but at that time, my young adult pastor really helped me to want to draw closer, and so I decided that's what I wanted to study more of. And so I didn't have like a pastoral aspiration. I had a wanting more tools, wanting a depth of knowledge, wanting a dedicated time to figuring out how to read and learn. And so I never saw myself in Texas, never. But um, my young adult pastor was so formative that I decided that I would apply here. And I doubted I would get in. My background has nothing to do with Bible college,
Mm.
zero. So, and at the time, I actually viewed myself as unworthy, which
Of going
I
to
don't.
seminary.
Yes,
Ah.
um, I don't now,
Mm.
but I did. So I got in and moved and been here ever since.
Never left. What was your church context growing up? How would you describe it?
It was, for me, a beautiful place.
Hmm.
So the fear mongering was not from them. It was
Hmm.
completely, it was me trying to synthesize what I got from church with also what I was reading in like the book of Judges or
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
any of the historical books
That's
of the Bible.
you started there, hey? Oh, boy.
Well, there's a lot of good stuff going on. It's a lot of drama. It's a lot of action. Um, so and I noticed, a lot of times people want to hang out in the New Testament. I could see why.
Hmm.
And I also just was drawn to the stories of the Old Testament, but
Hmm.
they are complicated. My church context was a Baptist church with red pews, like red plush pillow pews and red carpets. It was like, and wood. It just, that tactile. I just feel that
Hmm.
church in my memory, my sense memory, it had a huge pipe organ, red robe choir, handbells. I grew up playing handbells. It was, I could smell the hymnal pages.
And then that smells like, the smell of hymnal. That's a very
Yes.
specific smell.
It was well used hymnal. So it wasn't like
It
moldy
wasn't fresh.
hymnal.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it was old, but it was well used, always opened. And so
Hmm.
I know a lot of hymns. Um, my church is located in the middle of Manhattan. My church had folks from Germany, Austria, the Philippines, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Barbados. It had people who were accountants, janitors, teachers,
Hmm.
opera singers, ballet dancers. I tear up thinking about
Yeah.
how much I took for granted. And no church is perfect, but that feeling, there were just some things.
Yeah.
Like I always knew an outsider because they didn't, or a tourist or a visitor because they didn't know how to act
Uh,
in the space. So the first time I heard the word nigger was in my church
uh,
because of a visitor
huh.
who, um,
No.
yeah, I think my cousin was 12 and she was a dark skinned Black girl and didn't hold the door quickly enough for this old woman. But
Dang.
she wasn't a part of my church,
Mm-hmm.
but she thought it was okay
Mm.
to say such a thing
Mm-mm.
in the Church of God,
Mm-mm.
which I think is
Mm-mm.
characteristic of a lot of places
Dang.
in America, right?
Mm-mm.
But I knew like I hate. I mean, it was a formative experience, but it wasn't the characteristic of my church.
It sounds multi-ethnic, or was it predominantly
Yes,
black?
it's multi-ethnic. It was
Led
multi-ethnic.
by multi-ethnic leadership?
Yes. Yep.
Dang.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a
A lot of
gift.
times the head pastor was a white man,
Mm-hmm.
and pastoral leadership
Mm-hmm.
elders were multi-ethnic.
Mm-hmm.
So I that was my rubric. And
Yeah.
so it's been kind of one rude awakening after
Uh,
another since leaving. And it was, their views on women in leadership is like women shouldn't be elders or
mm-hmm.
pastors.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not I grew up thinking that it was apostasy to have women
Yeah. Yeah.
behind the pulpit, but they could be like in front or they could be like
Yeah.
singing.
Yeah.
So it was
Yeah.
like the position.
That's
Anyway,
weird.
that
Yeah.
kind of that kind of gymnastics.
Dissonance. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
anyway, but I will never. I mean, I will always be grateful for that formation,
Mm-hmm.
um, and the love of Jesus that they had and gave to me. Um, they loved me. They took care of me when my parents were working. Um, I had a safe place all the time. So my growing up spiritual formation, I would I it was not perfect, like no place is perfect, and it was just really great for me. But I'm just naturally angsty, Rohadi. So like on the flip side, I was just like, if I approach him wrong, will he slay me?
Uh, uh-huh. So then you go to DTS from that context. Thank you for weaving such a beautiful picture. At what point in that formation, because DTS is a conservative seminary,
Mhm.
at what point do you find in your own faith formation both a reimagination of life-giving pathways and also the cracks in the facade of some of your formative beliefs?
Yeah, that's a wonderful question. And I don't think I can identify a singular moment where
Sure.
that happened,
Mm.
but I can tell you that I felt myself as an embodied dissonance as soon as I
Mm. Mm-hmm.
came rolled up to campus.
Yeah.
It just
Yeah.
immediately I knew I was out of place as a person, as a woman wearing pants and a head wrap and a tank top in
Dang.
110 degrees.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
we're in a sea of suits and floor length floral
Really.
skirts and pearls and
Really.
the
Wow.
whiplash of people who were
Uh-huh.
like, I cried on orientation day because I was just like, what have I done?
Yeah.
So there are definitely unwritten rules in every subculture.
Mm.
And I was aware that I was breaking rules. And I was also conscious of the fact that the rules had nothing to do with theological education specifically.
Hmm.
It was just how one should conduct one's self in
Uh,
order to appear chaste or pious or
yeah.
professional.
Or holy, like you said.
Yes.
Mm.
But in standards that don't match up with 110-degree weather,
Okay.
right? There are
Yeah.
more rules of the trappings of purity culture,
Yeah.
plus um, the culture that the majority of the folks come from, rather than the culture of Christianity, which is
Mm.
there is not one.
Mm.
Like it's
Mm-hmm.
like
They don't know that.
it express well, coming onto campus with my hair natural
Mm.
was a form of resistance that I was not even aware of at first.
Mm.
I was not aware. And people, both black and white, expressed their
Hmm.
astonishment. And
Yeah.
that's not the case now. And I feel like I'm part of the reason why. It's just not the
Yes.
case.
Yes.
My academic background was I had an Ivy League degree. It was in African American studies.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So coming into the classroom was not an intimidating thing
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And I think my posture made people uncomfortable because I was unintimidated. And not only that, I was able to perform at a level where skeptics had no fodder. Oh, you can't cut it, little Missy, because this is the Harvard of evangelical seminaries.
Oh no.
And I'm like, you first of all, be who you are. Second of all, you exist because you did not trust Harvard.
Uh,
So please don't. Anyway, and third of all, I didn't go to Harvard,
uh,
but I did go to Columbia. So I am not intimidated.
mm.
The academics of seminary weren't what challenged me. What challenged me was not appearing in the syllabus. What challenged me was having
Mm.
only a white European or American male point of view
Yeah. Yeah.
um, held up as the standard. What troubled me was the hermeneutic of distrust and isolation that people who looked like me
Mm-hmm.
received. What
Mm.
troubled me
Mm-hmm.
was being in a classroom where the teachers, and not all of them, I will say that because there were some lovely departments that were a refuge for me, systematic theology and language. So Hebrew, Greek professors, systematic theology professors were a lovely safe place for me. Ironically, Bible
Mm.
exposition was not. It just was constantly a place where professors felt comfortable relegating Black people, Black theology, and Black culture to music and entertainment. Where and God forbid you were Asian or Latine, you weren't there. You weren't represented at all. And if you were Black, you were represented by music. Sure can't sing. Don't be an indigenous person. You don't exist. Except in missions class. Yeah, everybody geared all the Bible exposition, especially geared their talks to men who were married.
Yeah.
Typical. Yes. Women were like ghosts in those classes. Yeah. Where the tuition money was real, but like our existence was ghosts.
What you could do with that.
Right. It was amazing how acceptable that was.
Your body was an act of resistance to patriarchy and white supremacy.
Yeah. All I had to do was mind my business and exist.
Yeah. And you took that posture, and you didn't do that. That was incurred onto you, but you took that posture now of resistance, and from your own knowledge, your own person, your own being, you produced the antithesis of what was culturally normative in that context.
I don't know if I'm that righteous. I will say this, like, I don't know if I'm that intentional. Like, because internally I was also struggling, like, oh, well, Christianity for me, following Jesus for me means that I have to die to some forms of myself. You know, this is what the scripture says. But then the parts that were being killed, and I was like, I was always struggling with, is this Christianity or is this racism? Is this Christianity or is this misogyny?
Yeah.
I don't know. And I was like struggling, like maybe I do have a place as a woman. And even if I really resent this place and it feels like subjugation to me and it feels like condescension to me, but maybe that is God's best for me. Is this God's best for me? And so I'm not going to pretend like I was fully enlightened. I was not. I was struggling with trying to separate what was Dallas, Texas subculture and this mix of just anger underneath the surface and suspicion of the other that just was always humming underneath the surface, but was covered by righteous fervor for protecting the truth of God's word. I was struggling. I struggled, and it wasn't like this message wasn't given to me before I got to Texas, but it sharpened and got louder, and then was also flavored by this place, this land where the civil rights movement didn't occur in the same way here. In this place, the Ku Klux Klan required church membership in order for you to become a member. First Baptist Dallas had so many Ku Klux Klan members here, and that didn't just go away. In this land, you know, just up the block from the school is a highway that bifurcated right through a Black neighborhood. They decimated it. And it happened with two other highways that were that are like a mile from the seminary. It's just, there's so much that was informing what they were comfortable with calling theology, but it was really white supremacy. It's really patriarchy. And yes. And so I was just like, I was constantly like, okay, well, how does this square up with what I read in the Bible? How does this square up with what I know from my lived experience? How does this square up from I mean, every school has its issues, but I was reading Augustine, and I was reading primary sources in Columbia that I didn't read in seminary. I had a very comfortable knowledge of the place of the Black church in America, not just because I visited my grandmother's church, but because I experienced the African diaspora in my studies. Yeah. And it wasn't squaring. It wasn't squaring, and so it was a struggle. With my hair, sure, that was intentional. I was like, look, nobody gonna make me get a perm. Mm-mm. But as far as what I was supposed to, how I was supposed to live as a Christian woman.
Yeah.
At the intersection of my womanness and my Blackness. Yeah. Because like a Black woman would never be a good Christian woman in this rubric. Yeah. A Black woman could never.
Ooh.
It was a struggle.
Don't you think that in that struggle, in that resistance, as you were sifting through this truth, you were sifting through, quote unquote, the gatekeepers of a truth, questioning and searching for what is true? Mm-hmm. Was that not just, like, to me, that strikes me as a process of coming out on the other side in pursuit of wholeness and fullness?
Yes.
Like it was your story, and even though you were struggling to put the pieces together through the beauty of your own story, that it placed you on the other side into a space of goodness. Didn't it?
Yes. I mean, I think I'm harder on myself than your retelling is. I think
maybe
I absolutely think
prophets.
It was a process.
Let me tell you, prophet.
You are not lying.
They're like the Eeyores of Christianity, hey? Yes. Oh, I guess.
End of the road. Nothing to do. And no hope of things getting better. Sounds like Saturday night at my house.
If you ain't wrong. So.
You ain't wrong.
That's a good sweater. Dang, I gotta write that down.
You write that down.
It got to be illegal because it's going to have Eeyore, but man.
You have a budget Eeyore.
What does that look like? Come on.
A bootleg Eeyore.
Oh man, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it felt awful, and I think I wasted too much time trying to look for affirmation in these spaces, and also I don't know. Here's one thing I would love your input on, because one of the things I like about past me is that I was very optimistic, and I thought, oh, if there's just a gulf of understanding, and if I have this conversation and engage, there's a chance for understanding, restoration, healing to happen. I really was optimistic about that. Uh-huh. And I don't know, if you can engage me in this, I don't want to I don't want to become so cynical that I kill all of that hope that used to be in me. And I want to honor John 17, where like this is what Jesus was saying. This is how we are identified as people who follow him is through our unity and love for one another. Like I want to see it, but I also feel like I've been stabbing at my own hope for that. I want to keep it alive because I feel like that's an act of worship, but I don't know how to reconcile it with what I have experienced.
Yeah, that's such a good question and a reality of so many of our experiences around making sense of faith. And I feel like you glimpsed it when you said that I spent too much time trying to find their affirmations or something like that.
Yes.
Too much time to find their affirmations. I think if you are looking for liberation within the systems or institutions that seek to make you less whole, you will always be cynical. Yet cynicism, and the reason why is because it will never change. Cynicism poisons the soul. So if you are in that space that is continuously questioning your own wholeness, fullness of life, of your own liberation, you will be stuck drowning in the grief and the trauma because it will be repetitive and the waves will keep coming over you. You can't stop the ocean and the waves of, maybe it's like a small lake or something, some dirty ass lake, and it's coming over you and you're like, I got to get out of this lake.
Yes.
If you're okay with not finding the affirmations from white dad who's going to come and pat you on the head, then you can exert or expend that energy, or rather that life, into the things that also grant life. So I think it's where you put your life, put your energy, because if it's in the place that seeks to detract from you, it will continue to do so.
Yes.
I don't envy the folks who are within white institutional churches and denominations trying to lead and elicit change. I don't think it can happen. I can think it could incrementally, but you're going to give up a lot of your life for a what if. And I'm not here for what ifs. Like at best, let me just meander slowly with other folks imperfectly who will love one another and chase that unity. Like unity is part of it. That is the story. Why shouldn't we pine and search for that? But if you're in the culture and the context that always is built to detract life from those who do not match the heteronormative white gaze, then you're wasting your time, to put it lightly. You're wasting your time. I don't know. That's my take.
Thank you.
That's my take.
That's valuable.
Find the spaces that give you life and give your family life, that affirm your being, that affirm the relationships and the other bodies and people in your life, the multi-ethnic little people in your life, you know, find those spaces. I mean, I think that leads into another question of it. At what point do you feel, or in your story, where did you feel like you were stepping into wholeness and liberation? Because the stuff you speak on now, your expertise around women in scripture and identity and racial reconciliation and those aspects, that you don't just go from A jump to B. There's another journey on top of that, but it sounds like it's a journey unto liberation.
Yeah.
maybe there a catalyst, or was it similar to your
I've
journey?
been doing this. I've been doing it. Honestly, like I was looking at like some high school papers, and
okay.
I was just like, oh my goodness, I've always been this way. It's just that I've been talking to people who are like, shh, in response. Like, so I've always been interested in, like I said, I was looking at judges. I was reading judges.
Weird.
Like, excuse me, can somebody tell me why this woman was hacked into 12 pieces?
Yeah.
Does anybody want to do a sermon on that? No. So I was just like, I'm still interested. I was in seminary. Oh, okay. So we're going to do Genesis narratives. I'm going to preach on Genesis 34. We're going to talk about the rape of Dinah and how Jacob was silent.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about these great patriarchs who did not protect, did not defend, did not seek justice. Let's talk about it. And so they're like, oh, that was a really good sermon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Can't we just talk about it? The bare minimum.
Right. Well, I definitely have. I've always been this way. I've always brought it up. So this is, I think that the audience or the reception has been varied based on who was listening. So it's always been something. I remember. Yeah, it's always been like that. It's always been in me, and it hasn't been well received. By the institution, by people who want to uphold what is in seminary. And there's such a, and not in all seminaries, but in my seminary experience, there was such a fear of women in general, and such a fear that women would usurp authority, and that fear just vibrated everywhere. Men who didn't know how to make eye contact with me when I was on the elevator alone with them, because I might seduce them on the way to the third floor.
That quick?
Just like, but why would I? But maybe I don't even want you. Maybe it isn't even like that. Maybe I'm considering you a brother in Christ, and maybe you should consider me as a sister. Or how do you view your own sister if you're having trouble with me in the elevator? Like this ain't about me. But like there was such a tacit vibrating fear of women invading these spaces of scholarship. And I was told more than once that either I was there to snag a husband, or that I was there because I wanted to reach for things that weren't mine to gain, because I was in a pastoral program track. I mean, too many times, it's embarrassing how many times I was told that by people who didn't ask me questions about myself first, didn't even think to say, why are you here? Rather than this is what you're here for. Like I had no intention of marrying a Dallas Theological Seminary dude. None.
Gross.
I did, but I had no intention.
I take that back.
I had no intentions though of doing that. This one, he was not like the rest. He was not afraid, let me tell you. So, and that was really endearing. But that I would say, because I wasted a lot of time in my own life, in my own journey, trying to unify with people who don't want me. It was 2018 when I quit a job with the women's organization, parachurch organization. That is when I was like, "Ooh, I'm gonna choose me. No more of this." Like it was it's really anxiety inducing and traumatizing to be with people who, when they face front, are just all about racial reconciliation and love and community.
Unity,
and when and at the same time undercut every opportunity for me to just do my job. Who are clueless about people dying in the streets.
I've heard this story before. Yeah.
Right? Clueless about the mental cruelty of entering into a space that is so completely not made for you, and like being left off the group chat, being told, oh, I know this is your job, but let this girl do it because she's been a part of our community forever. And even though it's part of your job description, you would do it differently. Let this girl do it because she would feel bad if she didn't get to do it. Just backbiting, talking about people behind their back, but front facing, just fresh and clean and loving and caring.
Gross.
Oh yes. And quick to blackball you as soon as you step out of line. And quick to make sure everybody associated with them isolates and blackballs you too. That's liberation.
I heard that playbook before.
Have you? Because they share it.
Yeah. It's on the Dropbox. Everyone gets copy. The idea of liberative community now and a faith that matches. What does that look like for you and your family today?
So I love that. I love pondering that because it involves leaving the known behind, the models of what we already know behind. For me, I think because I was socialized to think that bigger is better, that more is better. And because I've worked in the spaces of more and bigger, I want to go small. And for me, it's going small. It is risking being vulnerable again after spending so much time being open and vulnerable and being pummeled, being taken advantage of, being lied on, or being stolen from. It is a holy act for me to continue in vulnerability.
Yeah.
But I think that it's hard for me to articulate, Rohadi. I think that so much of my work in myself is not being productive. It's like it's turning off a lot of the performance cues that have moved me forward in a damaging system, though.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's all those intersections that take from you.
Yes. But there were some benefits, right? That's why I was willing to do it. There was some form of reprieve. It's just
a slice. Yeah.
It's a slice, and it's so fickle.
Just sign here.
Yes. Oh man, don't get me started on non-disclosure agreements and
the real just sign here.
the real one, and how ubiquitous they are in these spaces of
That's gross.
faith,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but when you need to protect a behemoth, these are what you do. This is why I want to go small, and this is why I'm like, I don't want productivity to be my idol. I don't want busyness to be my proof of worth. And that is part of what it looks like for me, because
that's a resistance too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've never been one to ask people what they do for a living. And I think that is God showing up in me, right? To be able to see people not for what they do, what is that? But it's value in a capitalist society, but I don't, but what does it look like in the kingdom? It's like, Jesus asked so many good questions, and he's like so good at listening. And so I want to be like him in that. I want to be able to sit with folks and be sat with myself, right? And not have it be about, okay, so what can you do for us after you become a member, and tithing, and I think the conversations about generosity are different. Conversations about hospitality are different.
Yeah.
They have different motives. They have different ends, and just, I don't know, it decentralizes the hoarding of wealth and resources for this one behemoth
entity. Yeah.
Right.
Decentering power too at the same time.
It absolutely bestows power on everyone. Like, because it's not a hoarding, it's more organic. It's like, who needs, okay, who has? And so there's this constant transference that's just like, again, Jesus, who says, all power has been given to me, so you here. Like, he has it. He deserves it. He disperses it.
Gives it away. Come on.
Constantly. Yeah, and he doesn't lose anything, because it's not, there's no scarcity involved.
That's a book right there.
Okay, well, somebody go write that.
No, that's yours. Keep it. Put it in your book draft folder. He will disperse of this power, and he was not even, like, no power left him.
Right. If any power left him, it didn't stay gone. Like, he's a river, right? He can recognize, we know the woman touched the hem of his garment, right? Yes. And he's like, who?
What? I felt that.
Right.
Yeah.
I felt that. And he felt the power go out of him, but it wasn't like, when power goes out of me, I'm in trouble. It was just like, somebody needed that. I felt that. I need to know who did I transfer that?
Sharifa, this is a book. This is it. Oh my gosh. I'm just happy to be along for the ride as you come up with. Just to be part of it is gift enough for me. But
you are so funny.
So good. No, take that.
Okay, I'll take it.
I recorded it. You can listen to it again. And like, that's already 2-3 chapters into this. Oh, so good. Thank you for your time, for sharing. May I affirm you use these words, but if I could offer you an affirmation that your holy act of continuing in vulnerability is good. So thank you for sharing so vulnerably, and for spending time with me today.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for having me on.
The pleasure's all mine.
Not all yours. We're sharing it.
Okay. We share the richness and the riches.
That's right. The abundance.
The abundance of two Eeyores treading water.
Bootleg Eeyore.
Bootleg Eeyore. But we're sinking here. I guess it's time to go. And we good with that. I guess it's our time.
Yeah.
Just let me be. Wait a minute. It's not supposed to be funny.